Hi, my friends. Welcome back. I'm excited about today because I want to talk about iridology. Iridology is the study of the iris of the eye. This book is an old book, and it's written by Dr. Bernard Jensen, who actually was the doctor in America who furthered iridology the most. I want to tell you a little bit about the history first, and then I'll show you some things and we'll talk about it. But as soon after I do that, I want to get on my computer because I want to show you some eyes and tell you what we're looking for in them all the time. So first of all, iridology is old. It's 1860s, I believe, and it was I don't know if you would say invented, but there was an 11-year-old boy in Hungary, and a beautiful owl, you know, they have those gorgeous yellow eyes. It flew into his yard and had a broken leg. And he noticed shortly after that he saw a black line in the bottom part of the owl's eye. And then when the leg healed, because it took some time, he bandaged it up and he tried to help the owl. And after it healed, he noticed there was like white where the black line was. And he always remembered that, and later on when he decided he wanted to help people and be a doctor, he started looking at their eyes and he noticed people that had leg problems always had something in that lower portion of the eye. And eventually he was one of the people that made the first eye chart. Now if you're not familiar with iridology charts, there's many different ones. So this is one right here, but we're going to go over a bunch when I show you. But this is like a basic one, and you can see like there's a place for the pupil and the kidneys and the ovaries. This happens to be a left eye chart. I want to show you another one. Hang on, this one's cool. Look at this one. So this one you can see, do you see the brain up above and the leg down below where the owl broke his leg? That's where in the eye there was a black line. You all see the heart, you'll see the liver, the skin, the stomach, the intestine. It's pretty amazing. So I'm in love with this science, and really it is a science and an art, which is what we say about homeopathy, because it's not just a science, there's still an art to it to learn how to read an eye. Imagine everybody's eyes are different, so it's not just systematic. These charts help because when you look at an eye, you can, you know, kind of map it out like that. But maybe you're asking, like, what's the purpose of iridology and why is it so useful? Well, first of all, I want you to know it's not really a tool for diagnosing. It's really more a map of the iris. It shows a lot of our weaknesses, especially genetic weaknesses, or I could say even genetic weaknesses. But it shows a lot of tissue damages. So lifestyle, diet, pollution, you know, as I tell you all the time, you're not really sick, you're just toxic. And the iris of the eye, which as you guys know is the blue part of the eye. Do you see my eye? This, you know, most of you know my father's an eye doctor, and this was the model eye that he always had in his office, and it sat on his desk. And that colored part of the eye sits that right there around the pupil. That's the iris. And I did all my science projects with this eye all my life. I don't know, I really had a love for the eyes, partly because, you know, I saw my dad studying it all the time, but I never wanted to be the regular kind of doctor. I was always the kid that was into herbs, and I was a vegetarian, and I say vegan at the age of 11 because I hated dairy and cheese and mayonnaise and all that stuff and eggs. Ooh. So, but this right here, this blue part of the eye is the iris, and the iris has many little fibers, and those fibers receive information from the brain, from all the tissues in the body. So it registers a tremendous amount of information that gives us an inner look to what could be going on in the body. And the cool thing about it is you can see in the iris conditions that will happen but may not have even happened yet, but you can see in the eye. Like, for example, let's say, you could see, well, maybe I'll show you in our examples, but let's say that you saw that there was a really weak thyroid, and in 5 years from now, that patient got diagnosed with Graves' disease or Hashimoto's or something like this. So we don't really call it a diagnostic tool because it's really more a map that we're reading, and it's a guide to where our strengths and weaknesses are. And what I love about it is, I love to know if what I'm doing with my patients are working, and I wish I used this tool with every single patient that I saw homeopathically. I studied iridology for many years, like 25 years ago. I was so interested. I have a lot of these old books. This is one by Henry Lindlar. It's so old, this book. It's out of print. I have a few books like that, but it's really hard to teach yourself. And I've tinkered at it, but I was never good enough to trust really using it. So I'm really excited because I think it's a great tool to see if what you're doing is working, and also to take a deeper look into the body and see what needs to be strengthened and what needs to be paid attention to, because sometimes you really learn that a situation is more acute than you think, and you may not have even one sign that something's going wrong, because look, a stroke can happen, a pulmonary embolism can happen, and boom, you may be done in one time. My friend, everyone that listens out there, you guys know my soul sister Ellen, and her father passed like that. He never was sick, never had a cold, a flu, nothing. He was athletic. He rode his bicycle like 50 miles every day. Well, one day on one of those rides, as he's coming down from a big incline, boom, he just had we believe it was a massive stroke, but no one really knows, but it was something sudden like that. So, and I'm pretty sure if we could have had a picture of his eye, we could have seen that was at least something high risk for that person. So we take pictures of our eye, but they have to be really good pictures. This is Lloyd's eye. I want to give you an idea about. So this is Lloyd's eye, and you see how nice and clear and big it is? Because I ask you guys to send me questions, and I ask you, if you send a question, a health question, include a picture of your eye if you feel so inclined. It's really a lot easier for me to give you more information if I have that. But some of you have sent me eye photos by email, but they're taken this far away, and that's just not going to work. You have to have someone, you need two people. But if you just Google how to take an iridology photo, there's a video by Dr. Morse's clinic that shows you how to do it. And they show you with an iPhone or an Android phone, but it's still not that easy because you can get close, but you can't really get focused. This picture was taken with, I have a special iridology camera, so of course it's a lot easier. And I have now another camera that I just got because my original one that I got doesn't take good dark iris photos. So when somebody has a dark brown eye, then doesn't work so well. But there's so many things to learn about the eye. And I just want to tell you, I don't know if you guys can see, but I've always been told, oh, you have such beautiful gold eyes. They're gold. And I used to think that was such a compliment. And now I went, no, they're gold. Because I learned that, there's really only two colors, a brown eye and a blue eye. And so I just want to show you my eye. Let's see which one might be more clear for you to see that. Okay, this is my right eye. So I want you to see that my eye is not green at all. Do you see the blue all around the edge here? That's a blue eye right there, you guys. And when I detox and I remove all this not chronic, but this acute and subacute lymph, this congested lymph off of that iris, my eye will be all blue. And I think I've told you this before, but there's a girl by the name of Raw Christina. Many of you probably already know her. She's a raw foodist for 15 years. And she was sick. She had polycystic ovary disease, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and she decided to go on a raw food diet because she heard how healing it was. Well, you can Google this too. Look at her eyes. Just Google Raw Christina's eye pictures, and you'll see a picture of her when she started. And she has brown eyes. I mean, they're brown eyes. They're not like mine, green. Mine are blue with some yellow on the top. Hers are brown eyes, like you wouldn't know she had any blue in her eye. And then look at her now, 15 years later, of being on a raw food diet. They're kind of aqua blue, but she still has a lot of discoloration in this area around the pupil here, which is the stomach area. And when you see, like I have here too, do you see that orangey red? That's known as sulfur. Ooh, sulfur. You're going to learn sulfur's bad. This is one of the things that I've really talked about now on my podcast, because I used to be an advocate of something called MSM, and that's a form of sulfur. And honest to God, I even had books on my shelf. As you can see, I have lots of books. You can only see some of the shelves, but I have 5 shelves here, and I can tell you that I read a couple books on like the miracle of MSM. I learned so many people were using it and how they used it, and so many people thought it was miraculous. It heals people's allergies. I've taken away people's allergies with it. Anyway, I did lots of things. MSM was something that you could use for pain. So, I mean, honestly, like 4,000 milligrams would help people's pain as much as, say, a Vicodin. So for most of the years of my practice, I always thought it was healthy and good, even though I wasn't a big supplement person. I took it myself if I had pains, but I often recommended it to patients if they had pain, and a couple patients with allergies. But now I see this in my eye. I didn't take it, so much of it, that I think it would have caused this, because I don't know. But usually when you see this sulfur in the eye, it's known to iridologists that it comes from the use of antibiotics, because we say sulfa drugs, right? So sulfa drugs means that they're antibiotics that have sulfur in them. And sulfur, even in homeopathy, we have a remedy made from sulfur. And in the old days when people would have psoriasis, they would go in sulfur baths and then it would heal their skin. Well, we know in homeopathy that that's very suppressive. That's what they used to do in Hahnemann's day. And you can't go in a sulfur bath because it'll suppress your psoriasis, and you need to heal from the inside out. So, of course, sulfur antibiotics, any drug, but an antibiotic is extremely suppressive, and that's probably why they work so well, because it has sulfur in it. But the story about sulfur that Dr. Morse told me on my podcast, if you haven't listened to Dr. Morse on my podcast, I think it's episode 118. It was only a couple months ago. It was really good. And we talk a lot about iridology. But what Dr. Morse said was Mr. Goodyear was trying to find a way to make the rubber hard so he could invent a tire. And he finally got it when he added sulfa antibiotics to his tire. And it was the sulfur that formed the hardness to be able to create a tire. And that's what's getting stuck in our iris. And Dr. Morse always says that sulfur in your eye is really difficult to get out. I'm not even sure if you can. Now, I've seen some people's eye improving, but I'd like to see a picture of someone where had it a lot and it's all gone. So anyway, Google Raw Christina's eye, because you'll see the possibility of what would I say, how not only a healthy diet but a raw food diet will change the color of your iris, because it's actually proof that it's removing toxins. Now, I just want to also say this. There's two kinds of iridology, sadly. Like everything, there's always kind of a path that the science or the art goes on, and then it splits off by somebody. But Dr. Jensen, who wrote this beautiful big book that I have here, he's the American doctor, and he studied it from his early 20s and was absolutely in love with iridology, and he probably furthered iridology than anybody, more than anybody in this lifetime of ours. But there were a lot of European iridology, but they were also very influenced by Dr. Jensen. But then Dr. Jensen's daughter-in-law, who studied underneath him, and when he passed, she kind of got rid of a lot of his ideas, I guess we could say, and moved iridology into a different direction, which makes someone like Dr. Morse, who's Dr. Jensen's protege, and they were very good friends for all the years that Dr. Jensen was alive. Dr. Morse was his #1 protege. And so Dr. Morse is really upset about that, because he spent his lifetime putting certain things and proving them. And so now, sadly, there's kind of these two paths, and it's better known as German iridology. Some call it European iridology versus American iridology. So I'm studying with Dr. Morse, who still follows Dr. Jensen's work, and Dr. Morse is 40 some years in practice. So he's seen thousands and thousands of eyes, and he has a really high healing rate, and I love so much to learn from him. It's been such a pleasure. You know, I told you I did the level 1, and I'm doing level 2 of his detox and regeneration. Yay! I got my certificate. I'm super excited about getting better and better at it. So that's why I'm telling you to send me your eyes along with your health questions, and then I can help you. But there's so much we can tell from the eye. Maybe this chart's a little better because you can see the pictures of the organs again. You see, we can tell the conditions of it. We can tell how much toxicity in the eye, where it is. And so why would we have these toxins in our eye? Well, we can obviously look outside. I mean, we have environmental toxins, pesticides. We have toxins all in our foods that we're eating. We're taking chemical drugs, and then even recreational drugs. And you'll see this in the eye, and we're going to point some of those things out when I get working on closer on my computer, because then you'll get to see my screen and it'll be easier. But just for a clue, do you see that big brown spot kind of almost at the 12 o'clock point? That's in Lloyd's right eye. That's a drug deposit. So we could get a drug deposit from taking drugs, like it could be pharmaceutical drugs, it could be recreational drugs, but we can also get all of this from in utero when our moms were pregnant with us, and your mom's lymph system is passed down to you. So if she's toxic, then you're going to get that, and it will show in your eyes. And if she had a weak kidney, then you'll have a weak kidney. And same with your dad too, but your mom's lymph system, because the mom is so connected by the umbilical cord, you are living off of her. So if she's toxic, you're living off of those toxins. So someone like me that was actually born with dark eyes, that means then, you know, I can't blame the environment if I was already born and I had green or brown eyes. I don't have a lot of baby pictures of me because I was the 4th born out of 5, and we were all 18 months apart. And I think by the time my mom got to me, she said, "Oh my God, there's no time for a picture." But from the pictures that I do see, they're more black and white and not great colors. It looks like I have dark eyes. I would say more brown than they are now. And maybe as I've gotten older and played golf around all the pesticides, maybe then they turned more gold. But since I quit and I've been working so many years on detoxing, although I didn't have all the great tools that I have now, which means if I had known what I know now, I could have been through all of this already. But live and learn, right? And that's why I pass all my information on to you guys so you can get through it, healthier and faster and just make it happen. But for me, I did this alone and I just had to learn. So I will tell you that I think since I've been doing all this detox, that my eyes, I look back at a picture, when was that? I think it was like maybe it was in the 90s. Yeah, it was in the 90s. And my eyes look much more brown than they do now. So, and even more yellow, bigger yellow, but even darker, not so gold, but more brown. And so I think that the detox that I have done, even though I didn't know specifically how to do it with herbs and to monitor my eyes and high fruit and all the things that I know now, which you guys will learn. We'll get into that. But today's video, I just wanted to make as an introduction to iridology because there's so much you can learn and it's so fun to be able to really kind of read our weaknesses and know very specifically where we need to work. That's what I love about it. And imagine if I could prescribe a remedy, if I looked at somebody's eye and then I took their case, because in homeopathy, to take a person's case, it's 2 to 3 hours and you see all their family history. But imagine if you could get a good family history and you see high blood pressure, Parkinson's, heart attacks, whatever, and then you look at your patient's eye and you see a very genetically weak heart, you would say, of course, because you have the history, you see it in their eye, and they may not have any symptoms yet, but you see in their eye that they need to wake up and we need to do something to clean the lymph that's around their heart because there's some degeneration already going on. So in this regard, it can be really, really helpful. And if somebody has a cholesterol ring, and you're going to learn all about this and when I show you the pictures, but if somebody would have a cholesterol ring, well, this could tell you in advance that this person has a high risk of a stroke. So, we can really help people with this kind of information. And I always feel like what would be cool is the moment you're born, I don't know how early, if they do that today, I'm not sure, but we all have our unique thumbprint, right? You put your thumb on that ink pad when you go anywhere, and that's your life print. Imagine if when you were born, they took a picture like this of your eye, and you have something to go by, and then you could see. That would be so cool. I'm so sad that the first great picture, I think I did a reading with someone when I was in my 20s, but they just looked in my eye and told me, but I didn't get a picture. But I wish I could have had another picture other than one that I took this, whenever this one was, end of last year or this year. Yeah, this year. So it's unfortunate that, this is the first picture of my eye, because then you don't really know what you had when you were born, how much all the toxins on the golf courses really affected me, when did my problems start, with my sinuses. So I'm excited to discuss this more with you guys, to answer some of your questions, to help read your eyes. And so now let's get going, and I'm going to get on my computer and we're going to do some eyes, okay? Okay, so let's start off by looking at some charts, because I showed you a few already, but I want to show you there's many different kinds of charts. And then we're going to talk about the areas of the eye, and then I'll show you some eyes. Actually, I think I'm going to show you mostly Lloyd's eye, because I'm familiar with it and I feel like I have permission to do that one. So let's start with that. But this is a chart that I really love. This is one of my favorite charts, and I want to bring it, if I can, I want to see if I can bring it a little bit bigger. Actually, I think that's as big as it goes, but so let's look here. Do you see this is good because it's partly pictures and you get a clear idea, and I like the colors of it to differentiate the different organs. So you see this is the left and this is the right, and then right here would be the nose. And so if you always look down at 6 o'clock, you're going to see this is the leg. You see the femur, the knee, and the foot over here, femur, knee, and foot. And just inside slightly towards the nose, you're going to find the kidney and the adrenals. And this is a very key element to look at every single person's chart. And when you guys look in the mirror, you know, you can look closely or with a magnifying glass, but better yet, take a picture of your eye. And if you want me to give you a few ideas about your eye, remember that I told you, you can email me those pictures and I'll do them on my YouTube channel so people can learn. But let's keep going around. So on this inner portion, you see there's the kidney, adrenal. And then right over here in this little red is the uterus and the prostate and penis, vagina here. And then look at the back. You see the spine is like this. So this part would be the cervical. Then we have the thoracic spine. Then we have the lumbosacral spine here. So and in right towards the nose, we have well, first of all, right there, that little, let's see, yeah, so see on this side, on the outer side, we have the heart, but on the inner side here, we have the bronchus, and then we have the trachea, vocal cords, so this is kind of the throat area. You'll see on other charts, tonsils. Here we have the eye. Here's that big pituitary gland. You guys want to pay attention to this one because this is the master gland. It controls all our glands, so it controls the adrenal gland. It controls our thyroid, our parathyroid. Here's our thyroid here and our parathyroid. It controls our pancreas. So when you have a pituitary problem, you may be having adrenal problems, but you sometimes can't fix the adrenals until you address the pituitary problem. So this is really a big one. It's right there kind of in the front, maybe by the third eye in the forehead. It's called the pituitary gland. And then this whole area up here is the brain. You're going to see different charts tell you different things about the brain. When you look on the left side over here, you'll see the cerebellum and the medulla, and the occipital lobe is all over here. You see it over here on this side. Then comes the ear. And then to the outer side, you start seeing the lungs on both sides. Here's the heart right real close. And then we get down to the lower lung. Then we get the thorax and the ribs. And there's the liver. And you see on this chart, it makes sense. Our liver's on the right side. And you see the liver here. And there's our little gallbladder right there. And our pancreas, which is a very important organ to look at. And then we have our ovaries. So that's the basic idea of the placement of all of our organs and everything in most all charts, but sometimes they say a little bit different, but I really, really, really like this one. So I wanted to show you guys this one first. Let's take a look at this one. So you see it's very similar. See the leg, the kidney, see here we go, the prostate, see thyroid over here. And remember in the left side of the chest we have the heart here. Now you see we have the liver on the right side, but you're going to see some charts where they put the liver on both sides. And, you know, not exactly sure why some charts have that. And here we go, the same mastoid ear, shoulder. But now look at how different. See the lungs at the outer, on this side it's the 3 o'clock point, over here it's the 9 o'clock point. That can get confusing, so I just say inner, outer of the right eye. Sometimes that's a little easier. But you see here now when we get to the brain, do you see how it's different? Right up here they say animation of life, sensory locomotor, inherent mental, dizziness, medulla. So this can be broken down very much like this eye I showed you. But this is, and see there's the pituitary gland. But this is how Dr. Jensen did it for several reasons, and I don't want to go into that today, but what I do want to tell you is this area is the brain area, and it can be broken down even with Dr. Jensen's chart into the cerebellum over here and the medulla, just like, but he uses, so sometimes a chart like this, you see here the outline of the face, so this is the jaw, the nose, the upper jaw, the forehead. So a lot of people make charts and they try to put little pictures in because it's much easier to remember. See, here's one with pictures in it. Can you see the brain area, the face area, the heart's over here. See the legs down here. Here's the kidneys into just inside from that sixth sense. See, they put a clock around, and you see over here it says cerebrosensor, cerebromotor, face. And of course it's in another language, so I can't get it all, but pelvis, abdomen. But so this is how a lot of people see the intestinal ring. And I wanted to go back to this one here. You see, this is a really important area, the transverse colon, because the transverse colon, first let me explain something, that our colon, whether it's our small intestine or large intestine, we have a mesentery organ, and in about 2000, I think it was just last year, 2017, they called it actually a new organ discovery, and they're calling it a whole separate system. And mesentery it's on the inner lining of our abdomen, and it holds our colon and our small intestine to the wall of our abdomen. So this right here is our transverse colon, our descending colon, and then our ascending colons on this side. Here's our sigmoid colon. But this transverse colon is really, really important because it feeds directly to the brain. So this is an area you're going to see a lot of people having problems. This is really an important part of the colon to look at. You'll see a lot of dark areas in here. And when you do that, you'll see people having toxic tunnels because the toxins from here leak out and go right up into the brain. And the sinuses, as you know, here's the face. So you see the sinuses are like kind of right in here. See, there's the word sinus right there. So when you see sinus problems, you see all the toxins coming from the sinus from the transverse colon to the sinus, to the nose, to the eye. So you'll see, I can show you an eye like that, actually. But so let's go back down and do a couple other charts just so you're familiar with how many different ones. There's lots of different charts, you guys. This is one I love. This is Dr. Michael Mccammon. He did this chart, and it's not so clear here, but this is the one I held up when I was talking to you, and you see the picture of the brain and the face, the eyeball, the sinus, the mouth, the jaw. See, remember the heart's over here. We got the liver over here, the leg, the kidney. So we've got, you can see by the pictures, this is a lovely chart too. This is a simple one, but one that I like really a lot. It's, sometimes simple's better, you guys, because there's just so much to iridology that it's really best to keep it simple. See, mastoid, neck, shoulders, ear, medulla, cerebrum, brain. So I like that it outlines the brain and it still gives you everything. But of course, there's going to be things not quite the same as, let's say, that chart with the pictures that I showed you. So let's see if there's any others. I want to show you Dr. Jensen's original chart. You're going to see that because it's going to be, this is Dr. Jensen's original chart. Do you see, now it's done in color, and we might find one in color, but do you see here's the animation of life? Do you see just like that one? But do you see the kidney, the knee, the thigh? This is very detailed chart. This is the chart that most iridologists use. This is really, he spent all his lifetime developing his ideas about iridology and really putting them into practice and getting people well. And this is the same chart with a little bit of color in it. So that one's not going to come sharp. let's see if this one, see how they just add a little color, but that's still Dr. Jensen's chart. So many different ones, but they all kind of have the same mapping, only with slight variations. Okay, so now let's talk about different things that we can see in the eye. Now, most of you guys are, if you've been listening to my podcasts or you've just started listening to my YouTube channels, maybe you came here because you heard me interview Dr. Morse and you guys are Dr. Morse followers and you know all about this already, and this is going to be really basic. But I know there's a lot of you out there, especially my podcast listeners, that don't know much about iridology. So I wanted to take some time to show you some stuff and on these eyes so you can see what we're looking for and what a great tool that iridology can be. You know, it's really a master science to find where toxins are. And we just need, and it tells us where they've migrated. So we're going to pick different eyes here and I'm going to show you, but look at the difference like in this eye versus this eye versus this eye versus this eye. This eye has some orange and yellow. This eye has only blue but has polka dots. This has blue but no polka dots. See, all these things mean something. And look at this eye. You see some rings around. So we're going to go through and just talk about maybe five or six basic things that are really important to look in an eye. So just remember that iridology and the study of iridology just give us clues to the future problems before anything can even show up symptom-wise. And that's really the beauty of it, because if you can help somebody and point out to them that they've got something, and I'm going to show you Lloyd's eye, then you can do some preventative work and really prevent something bad from happening. So this page right here, what I really want to talk to you mostly about is some lymphatic congestion. So remember, let's look at an eye. Let's take this eye, for example. So you see all this white. So this is a blue eye, and all this white that you see everywhere is lymphatic congestion. And wherever this white is, like whatever organ that is, then that's the area that the body's having problems with. So what we want to do is we want to look at each specific area, and then we can determine what they have wrong in, where their weakness is, whether it's a genetic weakness or if it's just weak because there's so much toxins in one area. So anything you see white is lymphatic congestion. It's really easy to see on a blue eye. Can you see? Look at all this lymphatic congestion. A person that has a lot of lymphatic congestion is likely or has likely been a dairy eater, a milk drinker, or a cheese eater, or butter, or just dairy products in general, because they are the most mucus forming foods. And lymphatic congestion is just mucus, you guys. It's mucus that's suffocating it's clogging your system and suffocating your cells, and it's blocking that lymphatic system, that nice smooth gel that's supposed to flow and take all our toxins out through our kidney and our skin. Remember that our lymphatic waste mostly detoxes through the kidneys and secondary to the skin, and a tiny little bit maybe through the colon. So we're going to talk about different areas. Remember, this is the intestinal ring or the colon ring right here. So you can see this thick, you see this thick ring around the colon wall here. This means that this person has their wall of their colon is totally blocked, like nothing can come in or get out. So this person really needs to do a serious detox. And okay, we're going to talk about the 4 colors of lymphatic congestion. The first color we want to talk about is white. When you see white, white means that it's acute. That means that it's going to be the easiest to get rid of, and it has been there the least amount of time. And as the color gets darker, it indicates more serious tending towards going more chronic. So it'll go from white to yellow like this, to darker, to dark, and eventually black. And let's look at some eyes that can show us some problems with the colors. So here's an eye, and you can see so white, that's acute. Yellow, that's subacute. That means it's been there a little longer. It's getting more serious. Dark, dark yellow though, really, really yellow. So that's really a serious problem with the bowel wall. And the other thing is, this should be round. And when you see this jagged, this is actually the shape of their colon. It has all these, you've heard of the word diverticulitis. Well, diverticulitis means that the pockets are inflamed. But these are the pockets themselves. They're called diverticuli. It can be prolapses or a pushing out somewhere. You might see the colon sag down like this or balloon out like this, but this is actually the shape of their colon. And you'll see the ring is darker in here. So you see this is more chronic. So it goes from white, which is acute, to yellow, which is subacute, to brown, which is chronic, to black, like these black holes. Black, and you can see deep black holes sometimes, and that is degenerative, and that means there's been already degeneration. And the reason that the color goes black is because the iris has 4 levels, and when it goes black, it means that it's cutting deep into the iris all the way down to the 4th level, so that's why you see black. Okay, so let's look at a couple other eyes here. Let's go back to this eye. So the thing about this eye that stands out is how ballooned out and irregular this bowel wall is, right? So that's, again, his bowel wall, and it's not that thick as it was in those other eyes, but it's definitely not round. And this round, lighter ring right here, this is the stomach, and you can see it's kind of hazy and not sharp around the pupil. And that's a malabsorption ring, so this person is not absorbing very many nutrients. But the thing that stands out on this, you guys, are these dots. Do you see this? This is dot, 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 all the way around the eye. And those are lymph nodes that are totally blocked. And if you look, some of them, like this one's going yellow, a little more chronic. But look how thick of congestion. So that means every one of their lymph nodes are blocked. And if your lymph nodes are blocked, you're in trouble, because lymph nodes are where our macrophage cells live. And they're responsible to eat our bad cells and all our other bad things, bacteria or just bad stuff. They're the gobblers of all the bad stuff. So when your lymph nodes are blocked, your macrophage cells can't work for you, so you're more susceptible to get a cancer or just not be able to push anything out because they're totally stuck. They're filters, they're your filters. So you got to remember your lymphatic system is the sewer system, but the lymph nodes are the septic tanks. So they're like our filters, and when they're blocked, we're in trouble, and this person has their entire lymph node blocked. And you see there's some more subacute places. All in all, a lot of congestion, probably a big milk drinker. And another thing I want to point out is that these little, like this, do you see it's like the shape of a football? That's called a lacuna. And I'm going to show you more pictures of lacunas, but I just want to, and sometimes they're closed and you can see the whole shape. So I don't know if this is a right or left eye, but if this were a left eye, then this would be the lungs. And this person has a lacuna, which a lacuna means that there's a genetic weakness. And how do we know there's a genetic weakness? Well, do you see these fibers of the eye? By the way, the eye has about 280,000 nerves that feed through the ciliary ganglion of the brain. So they go from here to the brain. So there's a big connection, and from the, as you can see, from the eye to the brain. And this is why iridology is so amazing. But it organizes into a pattern, these nerves. So when you see these nice little tight fibers that look like silk, right? Okay, so these are beautiful little silky fibers. But then you see these kind of fibers that are bigger. Well, these kind, if the whole eye was like that, then you would say that this person has a good, strong constitution. But this person, they don't have that strong of a constitution, because do you see all this stuff, right? Look at, these are lacuna, 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 lacuna. So these are all genetic weaknesses, because those fibers used to be, or they may have been born with this and they got this from their mom, but they've spread apart over the years, or their mother passed them down a genetic weakness in the lungs. And this white around the lacuna means that that lung is totally congested. So you might see a lacuna like this, where it's extremely congested right here up to the brain, but from right here, it doesn't close, right? So these ones are a little bit easier to see changes in than ones that are totally closed. And it doesn't look like they're such a big deal when you see little ones, but every little one matters. I know when I've seen Dr. Morse read eyes, he takes even little tiny things like this. So when you're good at iridology, you can see so many things. So let's look at a couple more eyes here. Let's look at this eye. Okay, now remember, you guys, there's only brown eyes and blue eyes. There's no such thing as green eyes. If you were to see this person without on the screen, but just looking into their eyes, I'm pretty sure you would think they have beautiful green eyes. But this right here is over the top of a blue eye. But look at, first of all, what do you notice about this eye? Do you notice how tight the fibers? They're almost like silk, and they call it sometimes a silk constitution, but I don't believe this is a constitution. This is really a genetic weakness or a strength. So this person has really good genes. But I want to tell you this, because I don't want you guys to be all bummed out if you look in the mirror and you see an eye that was more like this one with all the lacunas. Because as you know by now, that epigenetics tells us that our genes are totally secondary to our lifestyle. So although this person has beautiful tight genes and actually a pretty decent stomach ring and not so bad, really, really, really thick mucus and dark, but pretty decent shape. But now we got to talk about how thick and the color. So out here you see some white, which is the acute lymph. Then it starts getting more, it's more than subacute. You see some yellow, but it's really more going to brown. And then you see these little tunnels. Remember, this is the transverse colon, and I told you there's often tunnels. See, this is going to the sinus if it's a left eye. See, right up to the brain. This is very common. When you see this in an eye, you often see these tunnels feeding the toxins up to the brains. And you see all these little tunnels, and every line where these are means something. But the thing to notice about this eye is the heavy, heavy, heavy congested in the bowel wall right there. The brown, how more chronic it is in the intestines. So this person needs a lot of work on their gut. But overall, they're pretty good. They don't have tons. And the worst thing really probably about this eye, other than their gut, is these rings. So these rings are called nerve rings. And nerve rings tell us how good of a shape the adrenal's in. So I can tell you, even though we can't tell if this is a right or left eye, I'm pretty sure by these rings that I can tell you, let me just close that up, that this right here is their adrenal gland. So I'm pretty sure that this is a left eye, because the nose would be over here, and that's the adrenal. And do you see that? That's a little lacuna, but look how deep that is. It's chronic. It's almost black. It's more than brown. So this is a person, once you see adrenal weakness with a spot on a lesion right like that, right on the adrenal gland, you're often going to see nerve rings, because nerve rings are a sign that the nervous system has been stressed for a very long time, And honestly, you guys, everybody's adrenals are shot. And I would say today, children born today are born with such weak kidneys and adrenals that this is almost coming into them at birth. So it's really, really sad. But the adrenal is probably one of the most important glands in the body. And for sure, I would say in the Western medical understanding of medicine and going to medical school, I would say the adrenal gland is really the least understood and studied, maybe tied with the lymphatic system. And if you learn 3 things from my videos or my podcast, please learn how to fix your adrenals, filter your kidneys, and clean your lymphatic system. Those are really the keys to good health. Okay, so is there any other eye? Let's take a look at this one because it's just so amazing, this eye, isn't it? So look at the thick lymph here. Do you see this? This is a blue eye. These are blocked lymph nodes. This is tons of lymph around here, all in the acute stage. This is going a bit into the subacute stage, but maybe the camera lighting's not that good. But for sure here we're moving into the subacute to chronic. And you see all these lacunas. So this is the brain. It's hard to tell which eye this is. If this is a right eye, this is the pituitary gland and the pineal gland. So pineal gland helps you for sleeping. Pituitary gland is the master gland. And then you look down here, look at this. If this is a right eye, this is an adrenal gland. Big, big weakness there. And then when you see a pituitary gland weakness, you're going to see a lot of others like the thyroid gland, I'm sure. But anyway, just had to point that out. But iridology, the picture of the eyes, that's what's always interested me, because my dad's an ophthalmologist and he used to take pictures of the eyes so he could see his patients if they had glaucoma or how their optic nerve was. I was so always interested in looking at the eye, although I didn't get to see that much of the iris. I always studied things about the eye. I've just been infatuated with it, so I'm so excited to now finally be doing something that's a serious study of the eye. And using iridology is a fantastic way to learn and apply my laws of detox and regeneration and natural healing and natural medicine and homeopathy. So it's all about detoxing and regenerating, and the eyes tell us where we have to go, where our weaknesses, where our toxins are, where they've accumulated, how genetically strong we are, how genetically weak we are, or how fast we can heal, or there's just so many things we can learn from the eye. And what I love about it is hopefully you catch it before it's too late, because you can see so many things before a person, years before a person has one symptom. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is a cholesterol ring. So a cholesterol ring, you see it here, it's this white ring. You've probably seen people's eyes. From now on, you guys, you're going to look at people and you're going to go, hi, and then you're going to be staring at their eyes. And you go, oh my gosh, they have a cholesterol ring. And there's such a thing as a skin ring. We'll go there. But let's talk first about a cholesterol ring. So the proper name given, like in medical school, when my dad went to ophthalmology school a bunch of years ago, because he's 93 now, he was taught, and they still know it today, as the arc de Senellis. And I asked my dad the other day, what did you learn when you went to medical school about the meaning of that? And he says it just means that it's old age. You get that in old age. And that's so wrong, because there's older people who don't have that, of course. But they just think, they will tell you if you see this in your eye. Some of your ophthalmologists or optometrists might tell you you have a cholesterol problem because they've kind of learned that, but they don't know what to do about that. But many don't. They don't even mention it, because an ophthalmology appointment doesn't look at your iris. They're really only looking into the back of your eye for the health of your optic nerve, your retina, and they're looking for your vision check and your cornea to see if there's any ulcerations. But there's no study that they do of the iris, which is so sad, because it's probably the best science other than homeopathy that I've ever come across in my life. So what I want you to know about a cholesterol ring, it does mean that the person has excess cholesterol, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the cholesterol in their blood is high. I would say in most cases it is, but in many cases you can have normal cholesterol in your blood and still have a cholesterol ring. Why is that? Well, it's that way because your adrenal glands, remember the adrenal glands? So let's take a look at this eye. Okay, so right here is the adrenal gland. So this is a right eye, and bingo, right there, a lacuna right on the adrenal gland. So the adrenal gland produces our steroids. We need our steroids to fight our pain, to fight inflammation, to help us run in a time of stress if we needed to run really fast, say like we were being attacked, or to calm us down. We need our adrenal glands for our steroids, our corticosteroids. And because they're so worn out and just we deplete them in life by many ways, by not sleeping enough, by stressing out, by drinking too much coffee and caffeine, or by having the wrong diet and putting such a stress on the body. Our adrenal glands are so important, you guys. If you have any anxiety or panic, it's an adrenal gland problem. So we need to really help our adrenal glands. And when our adrenal glands start getting tired, they get depleted of the corticosteroids that our body needs. And why do we need these steroids? Well, we need them to fight inflammation and we need them to fight pain. But what's inflammation and pain? It's acidosis. And what's acidosis? Acidosis is the acidity of the body that's coming from eating an acid-based diet. And you know, an acid diet is meat, milk, any animal product, but I'm just going to break them down. Meat, milk, butter, dairy, cheese, any animal product. So the highest acid foods are animal products, especially dairy, meat, butter, milk, all of those. Coffee, extremely acidic, and anything with protein. So even nuts and seeds, and although they have our good essential fatty acids, any protein like a bean, a nut, or a grain that are slightly higher, they're not like an animal product, but they're still higher in protein, so they're going to be more acidic. So the most acidic foods are your meats and dairy and your coffees and sugar and alcohol. Those are the most acidic foods. And our alkaline foods are our fruit and veggies. So when you see a cholesterol ring like this is a person who likely has eaten a very acidic diet, which means that they've consumed a lot of animal products over their years and that they have an adrenal weakness. And so when you have this adrenal weakness, your body says, okay, I have acidosis, and acid is fire, and fire hurts, and pain, it causes pain and inflammation. So in a way we could say acidosis equals inflammation, inflammation equals acidosis, acidosis equals pain, and pain equals acidosis. So you get it? So basically when we're talking about inflammation, which is the new big thing, is the cause of all disease, that's true, because acidosis is the cause of all disease. So we got to get rid of acids. And acids are just like they sound, you know, their pH is, you know, let's say, is it Coca-Cola, which is a 1 pH, and I think chemotherapy is a 2 pH, and maybe Coca-Cola is a 3 pH, but battery acid is a 1 pH. So imagine that your whole system is equivalent to even a Coca-Cola at 3 pH. So the only part of the body that needs to be acidic is the stomach, because it needs to break down our food. But everything else, our blood, our saliva, our body, they needs to be on the slightly alkaline side. Perfect would be 7 to 7.2. So when you're in acidosis, your body's going to need to do something to try to fight those acids, because acids hurt, acids burn. If you didn't do something, you would pee out if you peed out a 3.0 acid, you would burn a hole in your kidneys. So it starts asking your adrenal for more steroids, because steroids are a lipid base. They're like a gel, and they're really good for putting out the fire. But you guys, even before it asks for lipid base, more steroids, it starts maybe swellings, because it just makes our tissue hold water, because that water can put out the fire. When that doesn't work, it starts pulling calcium out of our bones, out of our joints, and then we start getting diagnoses like osteoporosis and arthritis, because all the calcium starts depositing everywhere, because it's pulling it out from everywhere to try to fight the acid. When that's not enough, then it starts asking for more steroids, because the adrenals are too depleted, so it's not making enough of their own steroids. So the brain signals the liver to make more cholesterol, so it can deposit cholesterol everywhere as a way of putting out the fire, the acid fire. Does that make sense? So in a way, when you see all of these cholesterol rings, you're going to see, look here, another adrenal gland weakness. Look at this cholesterol ring. And when you see, in addition to you usually will see some adrenal weakness when you see this, but the problem, and look under here, do you see these nerve rings? So you already know the adrenals are so tired and weak, and they can't produce it on their own, so the liver's had to work extra hard. And this is all to put out the fire of acidosis that is systemic in your body. So here again, we have an eye. You see the nerve rings, but if this eye stays in a chronic state like this, eventually they'll probably start putting on a cholesterol ring, because they're not dealing with the adrenal weakness. And let's talk a little bit about a brown eye, because a brown eye is not so easy. So one phenomenon that I want to talk about is sulfur. And it's really hard to determine on a brown eye, because sulfur is kind of red-orange. And it's hard to tell if this is red-orange and this is all sulfur, or if this is, let's say, chronic lymph moving into the brown stage. But this is a true brown eye, but there is a lot of lymphatic congestion over here that's moved into more the chronic stage. And you see the nerve rings? So let's look at this brown eye that we were looking at. Do you see? It's really hard to tell how much of this brown is darker brown than their eye color. So, but brown eyes are not as easy as blue, and you don't notice the fibers as much. It looks more like velvet, right? But it could just be chronic lymph over, and as this person cleans up their diet by eating mostly fruits, especially when you see a cholesterol ring, because this means, you guys, that this is plaquing. So when your body is forming that much cholesterol, that means your body is plaquing, and it's plaquing around everywhere. Remember we said, like abdomen, face, brain. Imagine you have all this plaquing in the brain, which is what you see in Alzheimer's patients, stroke patients, right? So this big, huge cholesterol ring has been here for a while. This person has toxic tunnels up to the brain. It has a very deep lesion somewhere on the brain, looks like in the medulla. They're at super high risk for a tumor or a stroke, especially a stroke with all this plaquing. But this is worrisome to see a lesion that's that deep into the brain. So what I want to tell you is, when you see a cholesterol ring, you need to know that that person is a high risk for a stroke, and that their adrenals are extremely weak, because they had to ask the liver to make more cholesterol for them just to put out all the acids. So this is a warning sign to get eating a high fruit diet. I would say at this point it's an all fruit diet until you can get this out. And at minimum, a mostly fruit diet, 90%, with the rest of the diet being raw and mostly just salads and greens, or actually just salads and green juices. This needs some fast work. So you can see another ring here. This is not a cholesterol ring. You see it's not that white, cloudy. And if you look up here, you'll see this eye has a bit and this eye has a bit. It's blue. Okay, so this dark ring is called a skin ring. So this means that the person's skin is they're kind of genetically weak and it's not letting things out. So they need to do a lot of skin detox, like saunas would be good, lymphatic brushing, although we all should be doing that every day. And you see the big nerve rings here? We don't know which eye this is. If it's a left eye, here's an adrenal weakness right here. There's definitely an adrenal weakness because you can see the nerve rings. And look how heavy the lymph is in the entire eye. But you guys, look at, do you see what I'm saying? When you start seeing chronic lymph and it's going right up into the brain, and you see their lymph nodes are all blocked. And look, it's going chronic into the brain. So you can be 20 years old and see this in their brain. Look at this eye. We don't know how old these people are because these are just eyes on the internet that I wanted to show you for learning. But honestly, I've seen eyes. I just did a couple guys that we met on the hike, and they're these awesome black guys that were so interested in health, and we got to talking, and so we had them over to just eat some fruit with us and so I could take pictures of their eyes and show them. And one of them had a cholesterol ring. Both had kind of one forming, one a little more than the other. They both had nerve rings. So it's really helpful because they're 26 and 34 or something, and they were really learning about something that now that they don't have any symptoms of. But one of them, I think it's okay to mention names, right? I'm not sure, maybe I shouldn't, but anyway, I just want to say that when they saw their eye, you see, then there's no more questions, and that's what I love about it. One of them was telling me, oh, but you know, they do modeling, and it's kind of really important to have your physique a certain way, and so he was working with a trainer, and he was being told to eat a high-protein diet for his muscles, of course, but the eye doesn't lie. You can see the weakness in the kidney when somebody eats high protein. You can see the problems. So the eye never lies, and that's what I love about it. Okay, so you see you guys are learning a lot. Do you see these slight nerve rings here? Do you see the more subacute yellow going to chronic? Do you see the white lymphatic with the skin ring? See, it's cool you guys are learning this. And then these things here, they can be confused for a chronic lymph on that organ, or it could be what's known as a drug spot. Or do you see drug spot, drug spot, drug spot? So often this can come from any drugs, can come from recreational drugs, can come from pharmaceuticals. And when we find an eye, I want to see if I can show you. This is a great eye. So what color eye do you think this is, you guys? And please don't tell me it's a brown eye. And for sure we know it's not a green eye. But believe it or not, this is a very sick blue eye. So this is blue underneath. You can't even see it yet, but when this person detoxes, this will be a blue eye. So heavy, 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 chronic, horrible bowel. It's probably chronic with sulfur in it because it's very orangey red. And sulfur is really hard to get out. It's almost impossible, really. I've seen people with sulfur in their eye, like Raw Christina. It looks like she has sulfur in her intestinal wall. And she's been raw for 15 years, and she made her brown eye blue, but she still has sulfur in her intestinal ring, so it's a slow go. But look how deep. Do you see those nerve rings are probably down 3 layers of the 4. So they're really etched deep. So we're in a very serious chronic adrenal stress here. And then one other thing I wanted to point out about this eye, see the toxic tunnels going to the brain? And if you look into the light color of the ring, that's usually closer to the color of their eye. So you can see even on there, they have that subacute lymph, and all this dark is over the top of the subacute. And then after the subacute, they need to clean off. So this person should be a raw foodist, mostly fruit, with green salads or green drinks, but lots of fruits and fruit juices. This is the way you fix these problems. Look at this heavy cholesterol ring. And then look at this eye. See, it's almost like this isn't really a cholesterol ring, but it's forming such a thick layer of mucus out over the top. And then I want to see if I can find one. See, here's again a blue eye with so much, look at this, so much lymphatic waste. It's even going into the pupil area. So I want to find one that I can show you that feels definitely sulfur. I think that's the closest I would say there's sulfur in that eye. But we'll get to it because there's definitely people that have a lighter eye that has sulfur in it. Any one of these down here? Here's a good one. This would be sulfur. See, it's more, now you can really see it's red more than brown. So a lot of sulfur. So this person has either done a lot of antibiotics, or their mother did when they were born, they got it passed down. So, okay, let's go to the next one. So this window, we're going to talk about, I think we already mentioned the lacunas, but we talked about the cholesterol ring, the nerve ring, the acute, subacute, chronic, and degenerative layers of lymphatic congestion, the skin ring, the lacunas, and I told you about the drug deposits and sulfur. And then I want to be a little bit clear with, let me find the right eye. Okay, when you see these toxic tunnels like this that I was telling you about, these little toxic tunnels that are in the transverse colon going to the brain, those tunnels are called radii solaris. So radii solaris just means toxic tunnels. See, a closed lacuna and open lacuna. A closed lacuna, this looks like it's a left eye, right? So left eye, that looks like a lacuna right on the heart. Toxic tunnel looks like this could be in the cerebellum area. So when you start seeing, this is what I see a lot in today's eyes that I'm looking at, is tons of adrenal stress, horrible bowels, horrible malabsorption, lots of toxic tunnels to the brain. It's no wonder our DNA has gone down, you guys, and our IQ is going down. When you start looking at eyes, this is an interesting eye. This doesn't, you see, not too many problems here. Pretty nice, little bit of light nerve rings around the edge. And looks like, I don't know which eye this would be. If I had to guess, it looks like a right eye. So this looks like right over here on the parathyroid gland. The heart is over here. So if it's a right eye, this is right on the parathyroid gland. And the parathyroid gland, it balances or controls or regulates all of the calcium in your body, which is so critical, because calcium is so critical for everything, for spasms, for integrity of your nerve and artery walls, for your veins. Calcium is so important, and this is a big dark hole in the parathyroid, so not good there. You can see, even though this eye doesn't look that sick, but do you see lots of little lacunas that are fairly deep? So that's pretty much what I want to tell you guys. Now I want to look, well, let's just look at this one. See those nerve rings? Look at that sulfur. Sulfur nerve rings. Let's go over here. Look at this one. Jeez, that looks horrible, doesn't it? Let's go here. Okay, so lastly, what I want to do is I just want to show you Lloyd's eye, so you can see now this is how I do it. So I take a picture of Lloyd's eye, and I've got a couple maps here, but first I want to show you a picture of his eye. Okay, where is it? Right here. We'll start with this one. Okay, so on this map, this is Dr. Jensen's map, and I like it because it's very transparent so you can see through it. But you see this big brown drug spot? This is, and maybe if I show you on another map where this is his eye without anything. See this? Okay, so that is right on his pituitary, because when I do it like this, now you can see pituitary right there. Look at right on it, pituitary. Okay, and you see there's a couple other, these could be chronic lymph, so this is his prostate, and he definitely has prostate issues. Look, and it's not only acute, it's subacute. Then you see here he's got a liver and upper abdomen, and this is in his mastoid, which is kind of side and back, into the brain area and the ear. This is the right side, of course. A lot of lung congestion, but you see all of those lymph nodes. Remember we talked about a lymphatic rosary? So do you see lymph node, lymph node, lymph node, lymph node, block, 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 all the way around. Not as strong here as here. This is in the lung area, and he definitely has some issues, over the years with his lungs. Like he smoked for some period of time in his 20s, so kind of has a chronic cough at times. But this is what you can see, when you look, and you don't see really any nerve rings. Maybe when he cleans this up, you'll see some light ones, but his state is chronic pain, right? But I think you can see when you start seeing this thicker ring like this, where his colon, can't get anything in or out, and then these lymph nodes totally blocked. I think you can understand why the nervous system is having issues, and he has his chronic pain, or I certainly can see it a lot more now. So, and then this map here, it's the same one, but it's a little different map done by somebody else. And I just want to show you again, it's pretty close. See, pituitary, hypothalamus, central nervous system. So when you start seeing something like this and someone has nerve pains like Lloyd does, it could be because of the blockage of the lymph nodes. It could be because his adrenals might be congested and he's got in too much acidosis. But from what I can see, this is a huge problem of Lloyd's eye, and the reason why he probably has a lot of pains, because the pituitary gland, it's your master gland, and your adrenals are regulating, your steroids for pain. And when this is the boss, and none of these may work because this one's out. So we got to fix that. We got to work on this bowel wall. We got to get these lymph nodes open. We're working on it, but I just wanted to show you that. And then let's look at this map. This I like a lot because I figured out how to do this, and I think it's kind of cool. So first of all, there's his eye. Now take a look. Do you see right there that little, remember, it's a lacuna, right? And the pituitary. Now let's watch when I lay the map over. See that brown spot on the pituitary right there? And right next to it is the pineal gland, and that's the gland that helps people sleep. And then if we look down here, this should be in the prostate area. And you see this is prostate right here, but this, if it's a woman, it's here, and if a man, it's here. And then I can go kind of light, so I can still see where the liver are, and then I just keep going light and follow the liver. Or I go look over here. Look, Lloyd had a fusion. That's how his pain started, when they had to fuse his cervicals. And look right in here, and now watch when I take that down. You're going to see, do you see this chronic? This shows you why he had to have a cervical fusion, because he has a chronic acidic area right in his cervical. If we would have known this before he needed the fusion, before it went to chronic, imagine, we've never taken a picture of our eye. This is the first, so it's really good now we have a baseline. But I wish, wouldn't it be great if when you're born, they shoot a picture of your iris like this and they give it to the mom of both eyes of your baby? And then when you see all along, like what's happening to their health and what you need to focus on. Because when I see Lloyd's eye now, I understand, okay, we have to focus on cleaning the lymph nodes. Huge focus on the pituitary gland. I never would have known that. Huge focus on cleaning out cervical, liver, adrenal, kidney here, kind of chronic. So we're working on it, and we're doing 99% fruit and 100%, well, I should say 99% raw too. Maybe once a month we go out to eat a cooked meal, but it's only a cooked partly cooked meal, you know what I mean? We'll still have a salad. We still have a few salads and we still eat fruit all day for breakfast and lunch. So we're really on it. We're trying our best, you guys. It's not easy. And then here's that other graph that I told you I like. So here's his eye. Follow that pituitary drug spot, and it's right there. Do you see? And then follow the liver, and then you see right there. And then the prostate, it's in this area, right in this area. And follow it. There it is. You see his colon, inside his colon looks pretty good, but that bowel wall has a thick layer of mucus. So, and he's got mostly the pituitary and the pineal gland I see on every. Then, this is that chart. And then let's see, do we have anything else? This is another eye I want to show you. So this is a person that's a friend of ours, and he's having some issues in his brain. And can you see why? Because this is the transverse colon, and look at chronic. So he's got a beautiful blue eye, but it started to go quite deep into the subacute, moving more into the chronic, and he's having issues right now, possible brain lesion, brain tumor. So, but you can see, look right up here into the medulla, the cerebellum, the mastoid, and you see all this chronic heavy lymph. And it's so sad, because if we would have known about this 10 years ago and he could have seen this, then you know you have a lot of work to do to clean out. You know, here's like this is all brain. This is all transverse colon feeding right into the brain. And then you see here in the thorax, and you look at this little point, it's almost right on the parathyroid, which again regulates all the calcium. And then you can see some lymph nodes blocked, not all the way around. And actually you can't see it, maybe if I move the eye out, you see a cholesterol ring forming. So this would be something also to worry about with the brain when there's plaquing up there. And that's it, you guys. So I think maybe, I'll just do a fast review. So there's 4 stages of lymph congestion. Acute, which is white, subacute, which is yellow and slightly green, and then it moves to the chronic, which is brown, and then the degeneration, which is like this spot right here. And remember that chronic, which is brown, can look very similar to sulfur. So it's hard to tell if this is sulfur or chronic, but my guess is that it's chronic because it's really a lot of green moving into that. But it is really, really hard to tell. And it's not that often you see a blue eye, with some chronic things. I mean, it's there, especially today. Then remember we learned about nerve rings. Maybe I should go back to this first thing. Remember we learned about nerve rings? And you see the nerve rings around. We learned about a cholesterol ring, a lymphatic rosary, which is like this, a skin ring, which is dark around, like this is a good skin ring here, heavy, heavy skin ring, heavy lymphatic congestion in the subacute state. We learned about a lacuna, which are those footballs. And remember, when you have tight fibers, see, this is not a tight fibered eye. This is a very tight fibered eye, do you see? This is pretty tight fibered. So that means they have strong genes. But remember, genes do not succeed what you're doing in your life. You can have an eye with lots of lacunas like this and think you have horrible genes and you live as a raw foodist and you would live a long life. So don't get all upset if you see, your eye with lots of lacunas. Just know that's what you were given. And you got to make the most and live your life. Lifestyle over genetics. Remember that forever, you guys. Okay, we also learned about sulfur deposits, which normally are from antibiotics. We learned about drug deposits that can be from any drugs, even coming from the mother in pregnancy. And then remember, we learned about radiosolaris, these toxic tunnels that go up. See the chronic lymph in the bowel, probably some sulfur in there. The nerve rings, great fibers. They look kind of like a wagon wheel nice silk tight fibers. See, these fibers are not so tight together. So this genetics of this person or this constitution is not so strong as this one. And then you see one like this, it's not so strong. It doesn't, and then see, pretty good constitution. And then you look at Lloyd's eye that I told you, see, he has really good genes, very good constitution. So I have really good hope that now we're on the right path with the high fruit diet, that he's going to heal this problem, because I see his eye has the ability to heal fast. And he doesn't, this is the big worry, because this is the master gland. And if it's controlling that adrenal gland and making it not work, we've got some work to do to unblock these lymph nodes. But that's basically it. That's our review. You guys know really the basics now, and I really hope you have enjoyed learning, and take a look in the mirror tomorrow and look and see if you can see if you have nerve rings or how much congestion you have, or if you really have a blue eye and not a green eye. And then send me a picture of your eyes. If you're sick and you need some help and you have a question, send me your questions, and then send a picture of your eyes. But try to Google how to take a good eye photo for iridology, because Dr. Morse has a very short video that shows you how to do it. It's not easy, but most of the eyes you guys are sending me, they're not clear like this, but that's because I have a special camera. But it's hard when I need to blow them up to see, and when I blow them up, they're really fuzzy. So I can't often help you guys that much. But after this video, I'm going to be talking about the eyes that have already been sent by you guys. But I wanted to do this intro one first for all my podcast listeners and my new YouTubers, and I'm so excited, you guys. If you're new, I just want to say welcome, and I'm super happy. You know, I'm going to Florida in October to finish my iridology training with Dr. Morse and finish my certification. I'm super excited. I've been studying really hard for the last year, and I've always been interested. The last 25 years, had books and reading and learning. And then it kind of just left me because I could never get past that because there was no one to study with. So I'm really excited about it. And I so look forward to this journey of showing you guys how our eyes tell you everything. And that the way you fix everything, all this acidosis, is through a high fruit, mostly raw, almost all raw if you can. But especially in detox, the sicker you are, the more you have to do all fruit. If you have a little time, then you can do fruit salads and green juices and fruit juices, but as much raw as possible with an occasional cheat. And once you've done your detox for a good couple years, you know, then you can make it like an 80-20, 80% raw, 20 cooked, mostly fruit with some salads. But we'll talk about that more in other videos. But I just want to give you guys a heads up on how you fix all this stuff. It's all about detoxing. Remember, you're not sick, you're toxic. Well, I hope you guys learned a lot and you love that. And I hope you learn to love iridology as much as I do. It's so fascinating, isn't it? And if you have any questions, like health questions about something that's going on or what you can do, you're going to learn as you subscribe to this channel and listen more, all the ways that we can take action to heal what we see in our eye, right? But I'm going to tell you that the changes in the eye take time. Like, you could eat really clean, high fruit, all raw, and do all these detox and herbs, and it still may take a whole year for you to see some change in your eye. And that won't mean that it's all cleaned out. I mean, what I've got is a lot of work. What everyone has. We're all toxic. Remember, I told you, we're not sick. We're toxic. So if you have any symptoms, look, I feel good, you know, but look, I see that stuff in my eye and I say, I have a lot of work to do. So we all have work to do, and you just keep going. And if you came into this lifetime with all the toxins there, then you have work to do, maybe more than somebody else. But so what? Just incorporate it into your daily lifestyle. It's fantastic. Be lucky you're feeling good. And that's why I feel so grateful, because look, I had 40 years plus of migraine headaches, and I finally, got rid of them, and I'm feeling good. And I'm sure it has mostly to do with my detox and homeopathy. And thank you, Dr. Master, for helping me find the remedy for that. But, it's been a lot of hard work. And so even though I feel now I could have done it much faster and maybe gotten a lot more of this off, better late than never. So you guys are going to learn all the ways to improve what we see in the eye, to help heal whatever you want to call symptoms. I don't believe in diseases, as you know, because I think there's no such thing. That's just a medical term that's been invented, a series of symptoms to be called something usually named after some guy that got some syndrome that died of it, and then it became that. So like Lou Gehrig's disease, right? So this is how we always learn, about what a disease is, but there's no diseases. That's why I'm here to help you, because I'm not talking about, curing your disease. I'm talking about teaching you how to detox and to eat best, to get more energy, and you'll see all your symptoms fall away. You'll see your energy rise, and you'll see your eyes clean up. So I hope you love that, and there'll be many more of these, maybe with more specifics about iridology or just in answering your questions. And I already have a couple people's eyes they sent me that they want me to do. I actually have 3 already, so we'll be doing those too, but I just wanted to give you a little introduction today. All right, you guys, I love you. Bye for now.